This week, we look at two of Jack Kirby's Eternals stories, both of which lack most of the Eternals. In the 1977 annual, Thena recruits Karkas and the Reject to fight a time-traveling threat. In Eternals number 13, while all the other Eternals are in the Unimind, Sprite sends the mysterious Forgotten One into space to stop the Deviants from attacking the Celestial ship in an attack that would wipe out a large number of humans as well. Emmet joins me to discuss. First, I'd like to thank our patrons for helping to keep the show going. You can pitch in by pledging at least $2 a month at patreon.com/deconcomics. This is Tim.
This is Emmet.
And this is Deconstructing Comics. Welcome to Deconstructing Comics. This is Tim in Tokyo with Emmet in country Victoria, Australia. Good day, mate.
Good day. Yes, I spent my morning standing under some brisk rain waiting for donuts to be made. There's a guy who's just set up a off the side of the road van donut shop. And you just queue up on the side of the road and he makes you up a bag of donuts and you walk away with a smile on your face. And that's how I started my day. So, yes. Oh, sugar and coffee.
Yay. All right, so we're back with the Eternals, and we're trying to take them in smaller bites here so that we don't have such a jam-packed episode. This time
like donuts.
Jam-packed with donuts. No, we're talking about the Eternals 1977 annual, and then we'll talk about just issue 13 and leave the other 6 issues for future episodes. So I was a little surprised that there was an annual at all, but I guess it was kind of the thing to do back then.
Was the writing on the wall already in terms of Kirby not staying on the book for that much longer? So it was a case of just, well, I've got these things written already, might as well just pump them out. Is that maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there were. I'm assuming that they're in the collection in the order that came out. I didn't check that, but since they placed the annual here, I assumed that it came out before issue 13. So that means there's 7 more issues after this. So that's half a year. I don't know if the writing was on the wall or not, but yeah, I can't tell where in the continuity this is happening, which is kind of what I expected would be the case. I mean, Thena is in it, and of course, in the regular book, she's part of the Unimind at this point.
Yes, but we're also with Karkas and the Reject, so those events have happened.
Right.
Because that's just in the most recent storyline that we just reviewed. So we've just met Karkas and the Reject, and now we're meeting them again, and they're sort of established as Thena's pet project that everyone else is sort of dubious about.
So it seems like it's a little before or after the Unimind, maybe.
Yeah.
As far as we can tell. But the cover says, only Thena, Karkas, and the Reject stand between humanity and a horde of assassins out of time. 3 against the Time Killers. A double-length action epic.
Now, did you recognize, because it's a great cover, because it's the 3 of them surrounded by these time killers, so people who've been transported to the present day from throughout time. Did you recognize Jack the Ripper?
Well, I don't know what he actually looked like, so...
well done, Tim, well done. With the sort of the popular image of Jack the Ripper, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he looked a little different than I might have expected. A little older, maybe.
He's got a full-on broadsword. Looks like.
Yeah, that's also surprising.
Because usually I associate Jack the Ripper with a knife, like maybe an oversized knife, but a knife. Whereas this is like a proper, it looks like it could be a saber. I'm not quite sure. But it's quite lengthy. So I was a little surprised when the reveal as to who that was came about.
Yeah, that is unusual. All right, so the Time Killers. And the splash page has Zurus and Thena looking at an oddly shaped TV screen, and somewhere on Earth at this moment, there's a Neanderthal man terrorizing a modern city, which is kind of strange to them. Like, what the heck is going on here? And then we get a panel of what's happening at that place. I assume this is in the U.S.
Yes.
The police look American, and yeah. But this Neanderthal is like grabbing a guy, and he's breaking the windows of a car, and everybody's freaking out. Police have guns on him, but they don't seem to be actually shooting at him.
Yeah, I think. Well, we find out like why that may be a factor, because we'll get to it in terms of what happens whenever any of these time travelers get damaged in some way, which is an interesting, because you're just warping the timeline. But I do love that whenever these characters arrive in the present day, they immediately just start wrecking stuff. It's the first thing they do.
Yeah, they don't even spend any time kind of getting oriented to where they are. It's like, oh, there are people around me. I should kill them.
Which is like, I don't know if there's like some sort of time fugue stage, where the person gets dropped and they just immediately go, well, one of the characters we do, because he's an English-speaking character, he does actually narrate his thought, which is that, oh, I'm in a demon plane. I'm going to kill some demons. That's what he says. So, oh, okay. And then another character is Jack the Ripper, as we've already spoiled, who, well, he kills people. That's what Jack the Ripper does. So
yeah,
I'm going to go kill some people. Cool.
He doesn't bother to socialize or anything. Like, people kill.
Yep.
Especially women.
Yep. So we here have a Neanderthal who's like smashing car windows, and people are running away terrified. He's grabbed this guy by the scruff of his jacket, and yes, you have 3 policemen all around with guns pointed, and no one's taking a shot. This is not America, Tim. I don't recognize this America. He would be Swiss cheese.
So Zurus immediately figures out that this is the responsibility of Zaka, the tool master, who is another deviant. And I guess they had maybe thought that he was dead.
Well, if he's from ancient Lemuria, like, it's surprising to them that he's still alive. So they say he's survived for centuries. So he's somebody they know of, and he's still alive. Now, either he's still alive because he's long-lived, because we've learned that some deviants are exceptionally long-lived, or he's using his time technology to skip through time. It could be one, it could be the other. Maybe he escaped the Celestials' bombardment of Atlantis and the deviant society that existed before, and he just went forward in time. I don't know. We don't find out.
No. So Zurus is thinking we've got to contain him somehow, and Thena says, oh, I know just who can do that, and it's Karkas and the Reject. And they soon arrive, having been called. And Zurus says, so these are the lovable monsters you imported from the deviant domain, which, of course, the Reject takes offense at.
Yes, he immediately goes for it. It's a great establishing moment, because, the Eternals are being condescending towards them, treating them like pets almost. Athena's special project, as I mentioned before. And Karkas is immediately the large, oversized red giant. He's immediately trying to calm down the Reject, hold your temper, sweet prince. Great Zurus merely jests, and the Reject just kicks off straight away. It's like,
jests are few in a life spent at killing in the arena. Am I a monster for having been bred to the sport? I'd hate you if I didn't hate the deviants more.
Yes, and there is something quite disturbing here, because, Thena is like, oh, do you understand now, Father? She's handpicked these 2 to send after Zaka. And there's this idea that the Eternals are effectively doing Black Ops now. It's like, well, we don't want to be seen fighting this guy in the city. We don't want to get our hands dirty. Let's send these two down to do it for us. They actually talk about that. The reject immediately is like, oh, you need us for some unmentionable task of devious design. You're sending us to do your dirty work. Your first assassin.
Both of them assume that they're being asked to be assassins.
Yeah, and then Zuras is again like, I give you no order to kill. You two shall carry out this task in a manner which your own natures dictate. It's basically, I'm looking the other way. So in effect, hey, if you kill him, you kill him. If you don't, you don't. That's fine with me. Which is exactly what they're accusing him of. They're saying, you've handpicked us because chances are it will come to violence and we will kill this problem for you and you won't have to deal with it anymore. And you can say, oh, well, it had nothing to do with me. Plausible deniability. Those deviants, they always like to kick off. It's a good scene.
So then we switch to Zaka for the first time. And he's got some kind of weird device. And he's talking with his landlady, who thinks his name is Mr. Zachary.
Yep.
She's come to get the rent. And she believes that this thing he has is a camera, which it kind of is, but we'll see in a minute what it actually is. And she thinks that he's some kind of like actor or something. I suppose I just have a soft spot for show folks, she says.
Yeah, well, he's wearing all purple, and he's got a very large yellow scarf wrapped around, almost like a shawl wrapped around his shoulders. And I have to say, Tim, I dig his outfit. I would wear this if I could. I love me some purple. That looks like a fine outfit.
So on the screen of his camera, there's like a medieval type knight on a horse. And she sees it, but she just sees, it's a handsome man, looks like an actor in one of them period pictures. But after she leaves, and he thinks of her as a ponderous hag, even after he's been super polite to her. Yeah. It's his true attitude. So this quote-unquote camera is for looking into other times and bringing people that he finds in basically the past. I don't think he uses the future at all. But he brings like dangerous people from the past to the present to create havoc.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because it's a device that looks backwards. You're right. So it's like a sort of, it looks like a movie set camera. It looks like an old movie set camera from a studio picture with the dolly wheels and everything. And it looks back into the past. So it's almost like a telescope of time. I think he can't look into the future because it's a device that doesn't exist outside of time. It can look backward because that's happened. So this is why Zaka, as far as I know, this is a done-in-one story for poor Zaka. Yeah. We don't have to deal with him again. We don't have like a Kang situation with him, which is like you kill one, another one just turns up. The time stream is full of Kangs. Too many Kangs. And yeah, so it's an interesting idea. Somebody who can look into the past and then yank it into the present day, but only for a moment.
Yeah, it doesn't stay very long. Just a few minutes, it seems like.
But he refers to it when he's fooling her, when he's sort of mocking her a bit. He talks about it being a projection. It captures fascinating images, but projects them as well. So he's saying, it's taking this. It's like an image. It's almost like those things. Remember the devices kids used to have, where you could put in a little slide and you could flick through pieces of film,
like ViewMaster.
Yeah. So that's what she understands it to be. It's literally a film camera. I do wonder if what we're seeing is time travel, because I wonder if what he is actually doing is he's replicating the individual from the past who he's captured and projecting their image as a physical thing into the present day, but the time stream itself hasn't been interfered with. Jack the Ripper was just duplicated. This soldier, this knight from this medieval setting was duplicated as an image.
Could be.
And then manifested.
A way that it could be explained.
We don't know.
Not stated that way in the story, but who knows? Maybe he doesn't understand how his own device works.
Yeah, I just feel like these characters arrive, they are conscious, they have individuality, they know what they're doing, and then they just vanish. So we have two possibilities. One is they went back to their past time and it was like, oh, a weird thing just happened to me. Or it's another version of them. It's like that episode of Star Trek when Riker got duplicated in a transporter accident. But they have a very short lifespan. They're here, just the projected image only exists for a set amount of time and then it vanishes.
Yeah, so this knight shows up in 1977 and starts smashing everything with his mace. And everybody's running away from him. And we see him. He's created an awful lot of destruction for one guy. There's an overturned car or several overturned cars and just like debris everywhere as he's running down. And there's like flame behind him and
immediately he kicks off, but also he doesn't just kick off. His horse kicks off. Look at that horse. That horse wants to destroy everything. That's an angry looking horse.
Yes. Not only is the horse is just as evil and destructive as the rider. I don't know how you train a horse to be to be that bad, but yeah, the horse is not innocent. So N'Zaka is watching and thinking, like, imagining all the frenzy he can create with this. So then we go to a large midtown hotel where Thena and the Reject and Karkas are, but they're disguised, and Karkas, I guess Thena has put some kind of enchantment that creates a regular human image of him for the people around. I like that he's wearing a red suit.
Yeah, because if people get too close, the glamour vanishes and they see Karkas as he is. So it's sort of working with what's there, which I really like. And then also the Reject, he's got a very white looking outfit and he's got lots of white in his armored form.
Looks like he's wearing a doctor's coat.
He does, yeah. He looks like he's, Dr. Kildare or whatever. I love this. I was wondering, is this because the X-Men do this a lot later, where it's like, oh, the X-Men go to town. Well, Nightcrawler needs to use an image inducer so he can look like a person, or Beast needs to look like a person. This comes up a lot in the X-Men comics. I wonder if they got the idea from here, because I can't recall it happening somewhere before. Maybe it has, but this idea of, okay, just for the sake of this outing, we're going to make you look human. And it's an illusion. And Thena has, basically she has science fiction magic powers, so she can do that.
I wonder how she makes her bangs stick out like that.
Yeah.
Her curling iron and some hairspray, I guess. So they're checking into this hotel because... What they think they can find Zaka. Oh, they've got a device, right, that's tracking where Zaka is. Yeah, and he's in this neighborhood. It turns out he's actually in the same hotel.
Yes,
and the Reject is like searching his bed for enemies, while the bellhop stands there trying to get a tip out of them.
It's great. Karkas is trying to be polite and civil, and he's actually speaking to the bellhop. He's actually explaining what the Reject's doing, and then when the bellhop is sort of hinting for a tip, Karkas is relaying that to the Reject, and he just immediately goes off again.
We owe the humans nothing. They should be in our debt for coming to their aid.
he picks him up, and the bellhop's screaming, "Hey, put me down, mister! Ha ha ha! Take a good look at your rescuers, human!" And I love the reject. I love him so much.
And I like that he called Karkas the doctored and deluded dinosaur.
Yeah. Poor Karkas is getting it from every angle. But yeah, the reject is just eternally pissed off, and I find him very enjoyable.
And he like you said, he's picked up the bellboy and dragged him closer to Karkas to see his true image. And finally, Thena has to come in and scold the reject to quit doing that.
Yeah, and the poor bellhop has to run away in terror.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's got this thing on her wrist that is detecting where Zaka is. Right there in the hotel.
Okay. What the thing does is it signals the presence of a mind alien to this age. So it basically is detecting temporal anomalies, which is a phrase now we can just reel off without a thought, because science fiction talks about this all the time. So they're actually tracking when a time incursion or a person from another time is landing in the present day, and the assumption is Zakas is nearby. That's what they're sort of. That's their deductive approach. So they're tracking him every time he uses his device to bring in another traveler, which is an interesting idea. I don't think they can attack. They can actually detect him. But then later on, there's something to the effect that they can. So it really confused me.
Yeah, later it's like we found out she was detecting Zaka's brainwaves or something.
Yeah, so something changed, because she says here, this instrument given to me by Great Zura signals the presence of a mind alien to this age. Now, maybe we're going back to my first theory, Tim, which is that Zaka is also a time traveler. Like he has somehow escaped into this timeline. So maybe his mind is alien to the age. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. Because the way that she's stating in here, we think, well, Zaka's from her time, right? So maybe she's detecting Jack the Ripper, who first appears in the next panel.
Which is what we're being led to believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's confusing.
Stalking this woman in the hallway, pulling out his sword, and the reject stops him just in time.
Yeah, and Jack Kirby has some dialogue for some thought balloons for Jack the Ripper. She's a perfect choice for Jack the Ripper. This metropolis is teeming with her type. I shall be very busy here, which again plays on this idea that the Ripper was motivated by a contempt for women that were considered fallen women or sexually immoral. So this woman who he's hunting, she's wearing a mid-length skirt and her arms are bare and her hair is free, and maybe that's enough to set him off. Like she's a harlot. I have to kill her now.
Yeah, compared to Victorian England, maybe
this is what I'm saying.
She seems slutty to him.
So he's saying, oh well, I'm going to be killing all these ladies, and that's a theory for the Ripper that, again, sort of blames the women for being targeted by him, which I don't think is fair. And also, I don't know if that's accurate. I find it interesting that Alan Moore's From Hell, there's your one per episode, Alan Moore's From Hell doesn't really follow that line of thought at all. Like his targets were sex workers, but like he basically presents us with this conspiracy theory as to why they've been targeted, which is so much more interesting than this sort of, Jack the Ripper was actually a moralist. Which is disgusting and, again, victim blamey. And anyway, but that's the line we have here. He's targeting this woman because her arms are bare and she's walking around with high heels and bare legs.
Apparently, although it's just saying her type is pretty vague.
Yes, I know, but her type, the metropolis is teeming with her type. That's the key. That's what I'm locking onto. Mm-hmm. Why is it so that she is one of many. My assumption is because of the way she's dressed.
Yeah, I'm sure the comics code has something to do with this. Maybe he might state it more clearly in a modern comic, but
oh god, at length, in some an insulting manner to the reader as well. Just like, oh, I'm really going to drag this point out.
So the Reject and Jack the Ripper get into a fight. Reject punches him several times, grabs the sword, is ready to kill Jack the Ripper, but as he tries to stab him, Jack the Ripper disappears.
Yeah.
Because, as Thena says, the pattern of time doesn't allow these people to permanently stay in this time that they're not from.
Mm.
They just stay long enough to inflict damage and panic.
Yeah. And the cops all of a sudden arrive.
Yeah, the woman in that bright purple pinkish dress who almost died, she's found the cops, and they arrive just after Jack the Ripper's disappeared. But they're actually not surprised to hear what happened because it's been happening all over. The reports of people causing damage and then they vanish.
Have a look at the gun that the guy inspecting the scorched pattern on the floor. Look at the gun he's holding. That's a very strange looking gun.
Yeah, it looks a bit too sci-fi.
It does look like a science fiction laser rifle or something.
Yeah, like he picked it up from a stormtrooper from Star Wars.
Who also couldn't shoot for shit.
Then Thena and the guys are like searching the hotel, which is a big task because there are so many rooms, but they assume Zaka is in one of them. Now here she says, his malignant mind registers clearly on this psycho band.
Is that meant to be a play on words? I don't... Yeah, it's not consistent, because that's not what she said before. Or is it just because it's locking into... Because it was alien minds alien to this time. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, okay, well, any strange mind is... Or she's maybe narrowed it down to say, okay, well, we're in the specific... He's here in the building. So anything unusual now is being pinged on the device. I don't know. A quick aside again on the previous page when they were talking to the cops, the Reject mentions that, you haven't made any arrests. Nothing's been mentioned in any of the reports. The Reject did the reading. He actually, which I liked.
Yeah, it sounds like he's been like reading all the papers.
Yeah. We didn't get that scene.
Yeah, it seems a little out of character. I want to see that scene where he's sitting in a chair in the hotel room with newspapers strewn all around.
No, I want him to be at a newsstand and like he just picks up all the papers and just reads them and then he just throws them on the ground and they go, "Hey buddy, you owe me like $12." Because he read everything.
And the Reject says something like, your payment is that you get to live because I saved you from...
We need to travel back in time and convince Jack Kirby to do this.
So Karkas, still in his illusion human form, is apparently back in the hotel room, seems to be just hanging out reading a book. Yeah. And this little boy comes in and asks if he can come in and play. Okay. And then he sees that Karkas is a giant and wonders if he owns a castle on top of a big beanstalk. So he's talking to this little boy who, I mean, a lot of comics artists can't draw little kids. This is a competent kid, I would say. Better than some of the others that I've seen drawn by other artists of that time.
Yeah, that's a point. I did immediately suspect that the little child who happens to come into Karkas's room was obviously Zaka. That was my immediate thought. Oh, he's a shapeshifter as well. Because this kid like walks into the room. Hello. But yeah, no, he's just a kid. He's just a child who's recognizably a kid. And his face, isn't deformed and looks like a 40-year-old man.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a an adult who's just very short. And the woman
but did you also pick up? Yeah, sorry, you were probably just about to say it.
The woman comes in. Apparently, she's not his mom. He calls her Janie, but she threatens him with a spanking. Is like, there we go with the spanking again.
Spanking's back.
She's apologizing to him, and he's, Karkas says it's just you watch him more carefully. But then as they're talking there, in the hallway behind her, somebody else is materializing, and so he says, stay in the room. He closes the door to go out and take care of this threat. I think this is Attila the Hun?
Yes. Genghis Khan?
Yeah, Attila. On the next page, he says, taste the axe of Attila. It's, two guys. Though, is the other one supposed to be Genghis Khan?
Like hardcore history has informed us that we'd be mispronouncing Genghis. It should be Genghis.
Genghis, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see a name for the other guy. He might just be an associate of Attila.
No, it might just be somebody who happened to be standing next to him.
But anyway, they have a fight in the hallway. These two guys are trying to kill Karkas with their axes. And Karkas somehow loses the illusion, and they can see his true self, and he smashes the crap out of them and throws them out the window, and before they hit the street, they vanish. Poff. But he really makes a mess of the hotel as well as of them. He drags them both along opposite walls and kind of breaks up the walls as he's dragging them and saying, die, you vicious maggots.
It's great. It's just such a great panel. Oh my goodness. It's so tactile, the violence of it, but also the surfaces of the wall just getting ripped apart because he's pushed these two bodies into, and he's just walked forward with them, stripping away the surface of the wall. It's fantastic.
And, they're gonna get some splinters.
Yeah.
And so the hallway is a mess now. And so now, he's made such, a lot of noise there that the babysitter with the kid and other people on the floor come out and they see the true Karkas. And I thought this was just kind of a heartbreaking scene here because he's just saved them from these barbarians. And now they're all afraid of him, that he's a threat to them. And, he tries to talk them down, but they're all just running away, screaming and freaking out.
Yeah, there's a bit of humor to it as well. We see the babysitter and the kid get out of there, but there's a bit of humor because one guy says, I'm checking out of here. All right, man, thanks for that. Thanks for the contribution. But then somebody else is like, there's this way, there's safety on the upper floors. So why would you go to the upper floors?
Yeah, well, that's the mistake you see a lot of people make in these things. The classic one for me is in the very first Batman 66 arc where Molly is in the Batcave, and for some reason she runs up on the nuclear pile. Why would you go up there?
Yeah. Down. Get out of the building. Down.
Yeah, or I've seen other things, I can't remember, I can't place them, but where somebody runs to the roof to get away and then of course they're cornered there. Why would you do that? Anyway, so he's left there standing alone in the hallway, which suddenly is not a mess anymore. Well, I guess maybe the mess is to his back.
Yeah, I think he's followed them. And because he was trying to explain what's going on as the people were running away screaming, and we can see more and more people running away. He's actually past this stairway, so he's moved further down the hall. So yeah, he hasn't trashed this particular hallway. But I do appreciate his self-awareness. He's begging them to not run away, as you said. It's quite sad. But then he just remarks as the mob runs away from, "Fools, you poor fools. Karkas has some self-respect. Like, he's not like crying after, oh, why don't they like me? I'm a hideous monster. He's like, oh, you idiots.
And then Zaka steps out into the hallway. Abandoning your deviant heritage has cost you dearly, Karkas. Here you are, a shark among minnows.
And Karkas says, that voice, I know it well. So again, like, this points to them being contemporaries, because so Zaka can't be a time traveler. Unless he traveled to the present day and then made himself introduce himself
unless
again.
it was just a short time jump. It's not from another century or something, but
they know each other. My impression was that Karkas wasn't that old. Like, hasn't been around for that long. Like, he's a present day deviant, not one of these like centuries old deviants. So yeah, they're contemporaries. He knows him, and Zaka is basically trying to tempt him to join forces,
switch sides. But Karkas won't, and so Zaka whips out some kind of a gun and keeps blasting him with it. What does he call that? A shock pistol. It doesn't seem to be bullets. It seems to be more of laser type thing, maybe. Or flame or something. But yeah, he keeps shooting Karkas. But then Thena and the Reject arrive. I don't know what it is in this issue. There are many panels where Thena's body just seems kind of misshapen. I'm looking at this where she and the Reject are running towards Zaka and Karkas, and I don't know, her shoulders seem too big, and I don't know, it's just kind of weird.
The silhouette's all wrong, yeah. It's very, and like, even, the Reject is almost entirely in shadow too. It's maybe overly inked. I'm not sure. It hasn't been given enough definition. It looks like her right leg is withered to a stump.
Yeah. So, seems that they arrive after Zaka has disappeared. But she's able to, with her power, reinstate the illusion, but also improve Karkas's condition, replacing shattered cells, she says.
In D&D terms, she casts Cure Wounds on him.
So now her device is telling her that Zaka is no longer in that hotel, which is kind of weird. But then we find out that he has something that he calls dimension transit, and he can go anywhere at any time, basically. I can reach this sleazy apartment at the speed of light. The interesting use. Where did that adjective come from? Does it matter that it's a sleazy apartment?
Oh, he's just full of contempt. But yeah, he's like traveling through the wall. So yeah, so he sort of is zapping like a light beam across the city, and then, or a beam of energy, and then he's manifesting in the apartment. But it's like he phased through the wall. It's interesting. Kirby just introduces these like concepts of random technology, and it's usually something just to get a character from one point to another point, or to explain why a character can do something. So he comes up with this concept for this technology, and it was like a throwaway. No, this is what it is. And again, I can see somebody making a real meal out of this now. Like, this would be a whole arc. What is that technology?
Yeah, so he's got this dimension harness. Yeah, that could be the focus of a whole issue or a whole arc. Yeah. But yeah, it's just we see it in one scene.
And it's just to establish why he got from A to B. That's all it's for.
Yeah.
Just tossing off ideas left and right.
Right, yeah. Kirby just has so many ideas that he doesn't need to base a whole issue on any one of them.
Maybe there's a meta commentary. Zaka then says here, "My genius is without peer." I see what you're doing there, Jack.
Yeah, so this dimension harness, he's got it under his coat, strapped onto. It looks kind of like it's almost armor. It doesn't cover everything, but covers a lot of real estate on his torso. But then he takes it off, which he will soon regret. And so now he's going to bring someone else from ancient Deviant history, Tutanex, the Mountain Mover. And so he's using this camera device to bring Tutanex to the present. And now, this is not really explained why things don't work the way he intended. He wanted Tutanex to appear somewhere else in the city, but instead he appears right there in the apartment. And of course, since he's one of these bad guys from the past, his first thought is to start killing people. And Zaka is right there. So now we don't even see Tutanex at first, just his shadow as Zaka is looking at him in fear and going back to get the harness, try to get it out of the drawer. But before he can do it, Tutanex grabs his ankle. And then we hear from the hallway Zaka screaming, and all the neighbors are running out to find out what's going on, and they're trying to get him to open the door. There's a lot of commotion coming from inside the apartment, which then suddenly stops. And Thena and the Deviants arrive, and she says, strange.
Good band name. Very good band name, Tim.
Yeah.
Thena and the Deviants.
And the Deviants. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, Zaka's mind waves have suddenly vanished from the Psycho Band. So it seems that now this band was able to identify Zaka in particular.
Yeah, they'd zeroed in on him.
So yeah, the purpose of the band kind of shifts. So they ask the neighbors to get out of the way. The reject breaks down the door, and we find Zaka is hanging from the ceiling, and he's done for. And the apartment is just a disaster area. Yeah.
So, like, I love that Zaka just was saying the page before, I've made these exact calculations. This is going to go so well. And then moments later, wait, I made a mistake. Oh, no. Why did he manifest in his room? Because he didn't carry the one.
Yeah, it's never explained, but apparently he made some kind of miscalculation. It's like the Hubble telescope when they used the wrong units to figure out what the size of the mirror or something. So as soon as the reject has his arm into the room, Tutanex grabs his arm, and as he's being pulled into the room, the reject says, "Alert! Mutate!"
Yeah. I was just thinking about this as well because, you got Great Zurus stand aside Thena, which reminds me, that is meant to be Zeus and Athena. Mm-hmm. And Tutanex, I'm not familiar with the name or what the root of the name is, but I did wonder if in the Greek myths, one of the Titans, because remember the story of the Titans had been buried, and Gaia was keeping them hidden from the gods, her last Titan children, and then they come back and they make war on Olympus. It's a big story. I was trying to remember if one of the Titans had a name similar to Tutanex, because it was just bringing that to mind for me. It was like, oh yes, there's those ancient deviants who are incredibly powerful, and Tutanex is the mountain mover. So I wondered if Kirby was doing some Greek mythology drops, deep lore drops there with this guy. But yeah, basically he's big and mean, and he can trash people quite handily.
Tutanex. It sounds like a laundry detergent or maybe an antifungal ointment or something.
Sure. Yeah.
Get Tutanex.
But there's the
gets the stains out fast.
In Asterix comics, you've got these sort of Gaul god Tantalus, by Tantalus, I think is they always exclaim. And I wonder if there's like a Greek equivalent to that character, or some sort of character with a similar root name. That Tantalus is the closest I can think of. Ow! My cat is biting my arm. I'm not paying enough attention to her.
We get a full-page panel of our first view of Tutanex's face as he's got his left hand around the reject's neck and his right hand pulling in Karkas, still in his illusion form. Saw the cat's face there in front of the camera.
Yeah. Trying to get some face time. Yes, and I think the design of Tutanex as well is certainly familiar to me because it's the kind of thing we've seen in a lot of DC, like big hulking monster villains in the decades since. So yeah, that emphasis on yellow and blue and just this hulking shape. It's one that a lot of Jeff Loeb villain characters fit into this box. Was it Our Worlds at War? Remember that event from like 2000 or something? The villain that looks a lot like Tutanex. Is that too deep a pull for you, Tim?
Was this a DC thing?
Yes,
because I don't really pay attention to DC.
Fair enough.
Yeah, Thena steps in, zaps Tutanex with something, says, release them, mutate. I can use the bolts of Zuras. And Tutanex crashes through the wall and jumps out into the street. I thought it was weird, though, that after he leaves, they seem more concerned about facing him again than they do about what damage he could do out in the street.
Yeah, I feel like the two deviants, that makes sense because they're blooded now. It's like, all right, well, we've got to take them down. They're both gladiators, so they're in that mode. Where Thena, yeah, it's a bit odd. She does go out of her way to make sure that when they catch up to him, that he's not able to hurt more civilians, but it's not their immediate concern.
Yeah, so she changes the reject's appearance to like his regular kind of uniform, the white uniform. Karkas says he looks most attractive for dying. And Thena looks kind of misshapen again as she's standing there with her hands on her hips.
Yeah.
Don't know what. And in 2 panels later, when they're jumping out of the room, she looks even more misshapen there. I thought that was the most misshapen panel of her. But Reject says, yea, though I be as the wasp to a giant who walks the earth, my wit and speed and deadly sting shall magnify in power when the furies course in my blood. And Thena thinks, poor Reject, he has the death wish. Not a death wish, but the death wish.
The death wish.
Had not heard before, but...
My wit and speed and deadly sting sort of, does bring to mind float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, Muhammad Ali type reference maybe.
Yeah, I think that crossed my mind too as I was reading. So they head out and Tutanex is tearing up a water tower on a roof.
Giant guys love water towers. Yeah, they love smashing up water towers.
Wouldn't be Marvel Comics without water towers on roofs.
Gotta smash them.
And, of course, a crowd is gathered, and they're watching. And then he throws the water tower down onto the street, and there's water everywhere, and everybody's running away. But then Thena and the Rejects show up with their guitar and drum set. And Reject says, heed this, Tutanex. A worthy adversary cannot be judged by his size. I am fit for any arena that you choose for combat. And Tutanex says, did I really hear those words?
It's like guys on a Friday night on a street, threatening each other. I'm gonna fight you. Are you really gonna fight me? Yeah, I'm gonna fight you. You go on then.
So they're fixing to fight, and Thena says, "Let's go someplace where we won't harm anybody else." So she transfers everybody to the spot, like in amongst some buildings that's closed for street repairs.
We do need to just quickly touch on when there's this back and forth, this sort of banter about you're going to die, I'm going to kill you. Reject just yell, here's what you wish me have, but fight! Like fully yelling. And then Karkas is yes, fight.
Yeah, Karkas is kind of not completely also into it. Then so be it. Let destiny decide. And the Reject and Tutanex salute each other with a fist in the air. Reject says, in the tradition of the ancient code of deviant combat, I salute you. And Tutanex says, I salute you, deadly microbe. And Karkas says, you ignore me in vain. My force shall be felt. So then they're transferred to in this construction area where Tutanex promptly grabs like a bulldozer and throws it at the Reject. Reject holds his own, but then like Tutanex starts like lifting a building off of its foundation and is ready to throw this whole building at them. And as the Reject and Karkas are charging him, suddenly Tutanex disappears. Now, it was weird to me that it seemed like the Reject and Karkas didn't even consider that Tutanex was sure to disappear like everybody else. Thena reveals that she was expecting that, but they seem to have kind of forgotten that was going to happen. I mean, they just needed to kind of keep him busy until he disappeared.
Yeah.
Weirdly, this building just kind of settles back down in its foundation, where it seems like it surely should have just crumbled onto the street.
Yeah, the Reject implies that Thena was also intended to make sure that wouldn't happen. Like, you stayed to levitate the structure back upon its foundation. So she's somehow reset it in such a way that it's not going to immediately collapse. But her whole idea was just keep him occupied, and the two lads are a bit annoyed.
Yeah. We've been played for fools, used by a female as pawns in a delaying tactic, says the Reject. But Karkas, who's the more sensible of the two, says, no, had this lasted a moment longer, our deaths would have been real enough. And Thena says, well said, Karkas. Zaka's done for. There aren't any more time travelers terrorizing the city. And Reject says, we've done our work, Thena, but what has all this done for us? And she says, it's helped us much more than the humans. Karkas says, how? She says, this experience has given us true comradeship. Each of us was willing to sacrifice for the other. Karkas says, bah. Reject says, nonsense. And then the end in the corner.
I love that it ends on a joke. It ends on the joke. Goes, nah.
Nah, who needs comradeship?
Nah. That sucks. That's great. It's a great ending. I really enjoy this annual. I really enjoy this sort of like self-contained Eternals story. All the different historical cameos are fun. Saka was a great villain, and then turned out to be sort of the proxy villain, or not quite villain, because we have a boss fight with this giant Titanic deviant waiting for us. Just great fun. This is
This was good. Coming up, Eternals issue 13. Kirby scares up an interesting story, even though most of the Eternals are busy in the Unimind. By the way, don't forget we now have a voicemail. To leave us a message, click the Leave a Voicemail link on the sidebar at deconstructingcomics.com.
Do you like comics? The 1960s? How about middle-aged gay couples gossiping about their neighbors? Then you'll love Checkered Past.
A loving examination of DC's Go-Go Check branded comic magazines published from February 1966 to August 1967.
I'm Dr. Bob.
And I'm Dr. Husband.
And each week we'll be your hosts on a trippy tour through mid-century four-color madness. Checkered Past! Available wherever fine podcasts are downloaded for free.
All right, issue 13, resuming the storyline from before. And the cover says, "Only in the awesome era of the space god's return could this action shocker happen. The astronauts."
And it's like, again, it's depicting a scene that doesn't, I mean, it kind of happens, but it doesn't really happen because
right, and it's showing some of the Eternals who are actually in the Unimind through the whole issue. We never see Cersei or Icarus or any of these guys.
No, it's Sprite who we meet, and another Eternal who will become a little more well known in Avengers comics, like a decade or so later. But yeah, it's depicting this fight between humans and deviants on a space shuttle, and doesn't quite play out that way.
No. It's a very, very much a kids, you need to pick up this issue kind of cover. Yeah. That, and these characters are not in it. I mean, we don't even see anything regarding the Unimind. It's all off panel.
It's discussed, but it's not. Yeah, it's not there on the panel. Yeah.
So yeah, the astronauts on the splash page. The word astronauts is in this huge lettering, much bigger than the rest of the text.
Yeah.
Astronauts.
It's great.
And we start with some of the deviants. Toad is there, Tode, being carried in a palanquin, and there's flame going on behind him. So he's coming to look at this like huge, basically bomb. It's a bomb ship, a ship that's meant to explode somewhere and do some damage. And so he's planning to send this ship out against the Celestials.
Yes. He
just wants to get rid of these guys.
He also mentions that the air is full of radiation. He's in his little Pope mobile, so he's fine. And Crow's also fine. He's got a little bubble helmet on. But I feel sorry for anybody else who's not wearing protective gear. Basically just inhaling radioactive fumes, it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, and, I mean, Crow is kind of questioning this idea. He says, but the Celestials are made of stuff beyond our knowledge. But Toad's got his mind made up that this bomb is going to do the job. It's going to get rid of him.
Is there a mistake with the lettering here? Because you've just got one of the flunkies replying, the Celestials and their ship have substance even as you and I, General. They can be destroyed.
It's a little surprising that a flunky would say that. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know who that is under that mask, but I mean, Crow has lines here too. But yeah, the first balloon is pointing to the flunky.
You'd think it'd be Toad, but then Toad would be positioned to the left of the panel, not the right of the panel, because by the time we get to the right of the panel, that would be too awkward to have dialogue attached to him.
So yeah, the flunkies says whoever he's talking to is General. Is that Crow? Is Crow a general?
I assume Crow's the general. Yeah.
Yeah. The Celestials and their ship have substance, even as you and I, General. They can be destroyed. So yeah, it could have been Toad's line. Although that you would have needed a long balloon tail to get over.
I'm saying, yeah, it wouldn't have worked. He's doing the writing and the illustration here. So if there's a fault here, it lies with Kirby because he's introduced this dialogue and then the panel didn't sustain it. So they've given the line to this guy. On the other hand, maybe it just makes this guy's just chipping in. But you would think that in a conversation between Toad and Crow, nobody else would be saying, well, actually. You're liable to get shot.
And we meet the 3 deviant astronauts who are going on this suicide mission. Yeah, it's basically a suicide bombing they're going to do here. And Toad says they should be proud of doing this job. The blow-up will not only destroy a vessel of the space gods, it will scorch vast areas of this planet and rid us of millions of cursed humans When it is over, the Deviants shall rise safely from the depth of the sea and wrest control from our shattered cousins. Your mission is clear. So they blast off. Now remember, they're under the ocean. So how much power does it take to blast off a rocket from under the ocean into space? I don't know if that's physically possible.
Yeah. I do like that the vessel is repeatedly compared to a whale, though. So there's this suggestion of it looking aquatic. Because it's not just, you don't immediately compare any large object to, oh, that looks like a whale. So I wonder if it.
I mean, in the 2-page splash of it, it does look kind of like a whale. It's kind of wide and big and not what you'd usually expect from a spaceship, but and it's red. Yes. Not many red whales, but yeah, the size and shape of it are whale adjacent. But yeah, as it's blasting out of the water, somebody in a little boat is saying it looks like a giant whale. So meanwhile, NASA is also sending a rocket into space to check out the space giants, not to kill them, but just seems to be a reconnaissance mission. What's the deal with the Celestials? And yeah, the astronauts are Terry Parker and Matt Durgan. Couldn't tell you which is which. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah, he's sort of dipping back into his 2001 depiction of space travel here. So yeah, these guys are able to take off from Cape Canaveral, and they have this little exchange about, oh, now we're being sent to spy on space gods, and walking on the moon seems like nostalgia. So this idea of, oh, we just got to the point where we've gotten out of the atmosphere, and now that's not even that big a deal, because now all these alien civilizations are visiting us. And again, it's one of these exchanges where if you reflect on the reality of Marvel Comics, you wonder, well, surely that's already happened multiple times.
Yeah.
And you do wish the Eternals was just bracketed off in its own little space. Because, at this time, by this time we've had Skrull cows, we've had, Spider-Man fighting space aliens, we've had Galactus, we've had, all sorts of alien armadas have been defeated by Thor or something.
Yeah, we've had the Kree Skrull War.
Yeah, that I was wondering if that was the same period of time, but yes, you're right, it's Kree Skrull War. So Earth is very much in the thick of galactic affairs already in the 70s. So you'd think this exchange does make a lot of sense in that sort of continuity.
Yeah, I mean, with the DC stuff too, for the most part, I kept forgetting that it was supposed to be part of that same universe, because it seems really its own thing. But I see in issue 14, we've got the Hulk, for crying out loud. So this is the Marvel universe.
This was kind of where I was saying to you about, was the writing on the wall for Kirby with this book, because my understanding, again, based on conjecture and rumor and the offhand way that people write about the Eternals, was that the Hulk appearance was the sign of when Marvel were reining him in a bit, saying, no, you need to make this more a part of Marvel, and it's this is what people want to read. They don't want to read your weird esoteric space comics.
Yeah, they want to see some superheroes that they recognize. So yeah, let's throw the Hulk in.
Because, I also associate the Hulk dropping into your book is a sign that, editorial has taken control, because Omega the Unknown, I remember when Gerber sort of left that book, that was also, let's have him fight the Hulk. Let's completely take a digression from this existential story about a young boy and his alien best friend, and let's have him punch the Hulk for a bit.
So these U.S. astronauts have some sort of camera device on top of their ship that they are deploying to check out the Celestial ship, which once they really see it, they're just super impressed with how big it is. To see this is to learn the true meaning of the word big. And it's, much, much, much bigger than their ship. So, as you mentioned, we then go to Sprite, who is kind of answering the phone while everybody else is occupied with the Unimind.
Oh, just quickly, we learn by process of elimination that the guy using the viewfinder is not Durgan. Durgan is the guy opposite him, but I can't tell which one is which.
No lectures, Durgan, please, but we can't see either. We just see one of their hands in the panel. So
and the one's Parker, but
right.
Once one is not holding a device, then I don't know who's who.
Well, and their faces are not even all that different.
This is what I mean.
We can't see their hair.
Indistinguishable.
So, they could be just like two Aaron Stacks.
That's it.
Yeah, so Sprite says, may the demons take those deviants, see what they've done. So he's monitoring the whale ship. They've launched some kind of infernal weapon at the craft of the space gods. There's no telling what will happen once that thing strikes its mark. Woe to the world if the gods retaliate. Woe to the Eternals in this unexpected moment of impending holocaust. Woe to poor Sprite who was charged with this duty, he thinks. So, he thought he was just going to be able to kind of relax, and now there's a huge crisis. So, and all the other Eternals are in the Unimind, so what can he do? And then he remembers there's one other Eternal thought of as the Forgotten One, and apparently the Forgotten One had been banished by Zurus centuries ago, and everybody was just supposed to forget about him. He must have done something really bad.
Do you know who the Forgotten One is?
No, don't spoil it.
Okay.
I'm assuming we're going to get a reveal in a future issue.
He's a character from myth. I will tell you that much.
There was a hint of that. It's something like the humans know him well.
Yes,
was mentioned in here,
and he has many names. Yeah.
So it's going to be someone that the readers will recognize.
Yep,
or at least know his name.
Well, I mean, look, what are we even dancing around this? He's in the movie.
Well, I was thinking about the guy in the movie, and I couldn't remember his name.
It's Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. I had a feeling that this was probably that particular character from the movie whose name I couldn't recognize or remember. Yeah. But okay, that's who I thought it was, Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
So Sprite goes to see the Forgotten One, his face is in shadow, as if we would recognize Gilgamesh's face.
The first character in written storytelling, mythic storytelling. Basically, he's a big guy. We don't know what he looks like.
By the way, I think this is the first time in all our Eternals episodes that we've gone over an hour before we finally mentioned the movie.
I know. I was trying not to, but then it just occurred to me. I was like, wait, the cat's out of the bag. You've seen the movie, so you should know this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. They just kind of threw the kitchen sink into the movie. Like practically every Eternal, just all of them together more or less at once. They did kill some off and then bring in different ones. But yeah, anyway, we'll get to that when we watch the movie.
We'll get to the bloody movie.
We rewatch the movie. So, yeah, Sprite recruits the Forgotten One to go up against the whale ship and outfits him with some special kind of space suit by rearranging molecules or atom. Yeah, playing with atoms is great fun. I do it all the time, he says. And then Sprite transforms the Forgotten One's house into a spaceship. Good trick.
Yeah, we're learning that Sprite presents as this naughty little child who really needs to get spanked. But he's got they've got incredible powers.
Yeah.
Immensely powerful.
So now we have 3 ships in space. We have the Deviants suicide bomber ship, we have the NASA ship, and now we have the Forgotten Ones ship. And the NASA astronauts are observing both of these other ships are there, and says we've become a damned parade.
Yeah, but when they're trying to identify the Deviant ship, I like the line, if the Russians built that, it must have been done in Transylvania. And I've got the Rocky Horror Picture Show music going through my mind. But yes, also, you know, we know what Space Transylvania looks like, thanks again to Jack Kirby. 'Cause he decided it was a planet with devil's horns. So...
Right. So we got these 3 ships, and the Deviant ship is approaching the Celestial ship. Actually, all 3 of them are flying toward the Celestial ship. And whatever Celestial this is inside the ship, we just kind of see a silhouette. Now, I was not expecting this. This kind of blew my mind, that the Celestial decides the crews are in the wrong ships. Like, what?
It's such a great summation.
And so the Celestial transfers the crews to what it feels are the appropriate ships. So first on the American ship, the Deviant astronauts appear. And so this is as close as we get to what happens on the cover.
Yeah, exactly.
The Deviants do shoot at the NASA astronauts.
Which I think destroys the controls, which is going to be a problem for them in a moment.
Yeah, because then the NASA astronauts disappear, and now they are on the Forgotten Ones ship.
Yeah.
The Eternals ship. And the Forgotten One is now on the suicide bomber ship, which is right where he wants to be, so he can defuse it from inside.
We get another amazing Kirby designed technology that looks like a lot of squiggly lines. So sort of Aztec characters. It's great.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of pipes or something. And so the NASA astronauts land. They find that they can just control the ship with thought, so it's pretty easy for them to pilot it once they figure that out. And of course, now they got some splaining to do. Like, how did they come back in a different ship?
We know Matt is on the left and Terry's on the right. Because they keep using each other's names.
Yeah, let's face them, Parker, with the facts as we know them. Yeah, terrific. I was almost expecting that they were going to get shot out of the sky as a UFO landing on the base.
Cape Canaveral.
It's interesting that they waited long enough to find out who was in the ship. Oh, it's our astronauts. It's lucky for Durgan and Parker. But yeah, I got to say again, I really love the art on the suicide bomber ship, and that in that one full page panel of the 3 ships, there's just flame coming out of the mouth, and it's really convincingly drawn flame too.
Yeah, it's like techno Leviathan. Like it's incredible. This like, again, this idea of Moby Dick as this giant monster, and then he's got this mythic quality to him as this creature from beneath the waves, and there's these stories with giant sea monsters, and Kirby's like, oh yeah, those are deviant vessels. So those were.
So, but now the Deviants are on the NASA ship, and yeah, they can't control it. Kirby says they're unacquainted with its controls, but also, yeah, as you mentioned, they probably destroyed some of them when they were shooting at the astronauts.
Shot the thing.
And pretty soon the ship just breaks apart over the ocean. And Kirby says, having embarked on a mission of suicide and mass destruction, the Deviants achieved their end on a smaller scale than they may have desired. So, yeah, they're dead, but they didn't accomplish their goal. They're just floating in the ocean now.
Kirby's a bit savage here. Sucked in.
And the whale ship is destroyed. It's flaming in space, even though there's no oxygen. I suppose there was oxygen inside the ship. That's what's fueling the flames, I guess. And the Forgotten One is just floating in space into the Celestial ship, and we see him landing in the shadowy hand of the Celestial. He is a flea proven worthy of the gods.
So we'll find out what happens to him next. But yeah, no, again, this is just a great side quest for the Eternals comic, where it's while they were all in the Unimind, all this stuff happened.
Yeah. There's still a lot of action in this issue with hardly any Eternals available.
And yeah, the idea of the Deviants just deciding, right, we're just going to take out the Celestials. We're just going to kill them. I really like this book, and I know I keep repeating myself, but I am amazed that my only consciousness of this book was, this was the bad Kirby Marvel book.
I've seen it taking some real hits on social media. It was like the Kirby crapped on the page. That was the Eternals. I don't think so.
I think it's pretty good. It's solid.
Yeah.
It's interesting stuff. His character work is, as always, a bit stiff, but there's little flashes of deadpan humor there too, which I really appreciate. I don't know what people want, frankly.
Yeah. And it takes a little work to get your mind around it, I think. It's not a standard superhero book. It's not the Fantastic Four, but it's interesting. All right. So, we thought that by doing just these two books, we wouldn't go 90 minutes, but we almost have anyway.
Yep, almost exactly.
It just expands to fill the space. Even if we talked about one normal size issue, it might still take 90 minutes.
I was going to message you while we were talking to say, hey, do you want to just call it at the annual? just wrap it up. Wrap it up.
No. Okay. Well, this is interesting. We've got 6 more issues to go, and then the frickin' movie after that. So. The Eternals by Jack Kirby, the complete collection, is published by Marvel. Thanks to our patrons for supporting Deconstructing Comics, Critiquing Comics, and our other podcasts. To join them, go to patreon.com/deconcomics. Patrons get access to podcasts about the early years of The Amazing Spider-Man, Jim Starlin's run on Captain Marvel, and more. Are you making a comic? Send it to us and we'll do a Critiquing Comics episode about it. Our theme is by J.B. Anderton. We now have a new contributing writer for our site. Check out Hernando Diaz's columns at deconstructingcomics.com. Next week, Critiquing Comics. Adam and I look at Adam McGovern and Bruno Letizia's The Night Brigade, about the Crimean War with werewolves. And Jason and I discuss Asante Amani's Private Eye comic, Joe Mallard. Till then, this is Tim, and thanks for listening to Deconstructing Comics.